Here we go again, guys. The Senate is now put clarity on a delay path. Now, there may still be an option here, but we are going to break it down for you guys. So don't miss this one. I want to thank our sponsor today. And of course, that is Uphold. If you are holding crypto right now and not earning rewards, you're essentially leaving money on the table. And the reality is, in today's market, you need to be able to move instantly. That's why Uphold's flexible staking is such a game changer. You can earn weekly rewards automatically on assets you already hold without a lockup. That's most important. You can sell anytime. It's the perfect setup for anyone who wants to grow their holdings without losing their exit strategy. Download the Uphold app today and try it for yourself. Let's just get into it. I want to first lead off with, well, we had to create a new timer. And this time we're going to create it the other way. And that is how many days it's been since the House passed clarity into the Senate. That is now 385 days. That's crazy that it has been that long since the House has put this through. And of course, with everything that's going on in DC, you have the situation pretty much going to a grinding to a halt here on Polymarket, as you can see, setting at 14% when it comes to clarity. And I think this is a situation right now that we have to analyze some very close statements. We've got some clips today, and I'm also going to bring on Rebecca Walser from Walser Wealth Management to kind of break this down. Rebecca, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, Paul. Glad to be here.
All right, so Rebecca, I want to showcase something to you quickly. This was a Politico piece put out. This, of course, is Senator Thune, who has pretty much been the guy that is the linchpin on getting this done. And one thing that is said right here, and I'll zoom in on this for you guys to see it a little bit, but you'll notice that he told reporters that we're getting all of this queued up in reference to clarity for first thing when we come back in September. This is the big point, because I think the market may have read this differently, is this is the first time that Thune has given a date, even though it's a month, but it's still a date. So my question to you is, do you feel like this is another punting setup, or do you feel like maybe they actually have something in plan for September? What are your thoughts?
I mean, I do think that the everyone is aware of this act. Everyone is in the world is aware that it needs to get through. So I have some reticence to believe that we're going to come straight back from the summer break for the senators and get a vote in September first thing. I think they're back this 13th, I want to say. And it doesn't look like, to me, there's actual still consensus. It seems like we're still having an impasse, not only around the ethics provision, but also some of the commodities being regulated by the Senate Agriculture Committee. So, that being their domain, the commodities being in their domain, the way it's structured right now. So it still seems like there's some meat that is left unresolved. And I also noted in that same article that you just mentioned, the political article, that Thune did say they would have 3 weeks, Paul, to actually work on it when they came back. So he's even kind of forecasting that this is not fully resolved, which is why even a cloture vote today wouldn't have really made a lot of sense. It's not a resolved, ready to go for a vote. They don't have the 60 votes. And so there's work to be done, and it's not going to be just we're back and we're ready to vote. Because so many people were expecting to see some kind of vote this week. We were really hoping at the beginning of the week we'd get a vote this week. And what this tells me is when he says we're coming back right to it when we come back, we've got 3 weeks to work on it. That tells me that he still sees there's a lot of work to be done to resolve the differences between the Democrats and the Republicans.
Well, listen, the Democrats, I think, have a very good position right now because they're able to claw in a lot of their needs and wants coming out of this bill, because it is a very important bill to Trump and the administration. If you look at the calendar, to your point, coming back on the week of the 13th, they actually go into session on the 14th. They'll go through 4 days. Then they have another 4 days on the next week, and then another, 4 days all the way into the 1st of October. So you can kind of see there is a window here of where this could potentially still occur. And to your point, maybe there is still some negotiations happening. I want to play a clip for you because this will get into a little bit more detail on where I think this is coming from. And I still believe that the banks are behind all of this. Let me play this for you.
Here's how a Wall Street Journal editorial board put it on Tuesday. And I'm just putting up the headline: clarity for crypto, comma, sort of. And then they say the Senate bill to regulate the digital currency needs changes to reduce risks to the financial system. I think this is a warning for all of us. That bill is not ready for prime time. You would agree that that would be a concern, would you not?
Yes, Senator, Congress should act in this space. So good for Congress to be acting. And so we do have concerns with the bill as we understand it today, but we haven't quite seen it, so we don't really know. But I agree with the Wall Street Journal editorial from yesterday. I think it's very well written.
All right, so we've called this out a couple of times on the Wall Street Journal, is they have these very unusual editors, not to be named, that put this kind of FUD out. And then ironically, this comes up in a random hearing over in DC that really didn't have anything to do with what's going to actually be done here. Then you have Senator Jerry Moran, who is opposing clarity. So he's the newest one that has come out of the cobwebs here and has entered the case. And I still don't know, this guy has never even been mentioned by any of the lobbyists that I've talked to, that this guy is even an issue. And then right after that, Rebecca, you have Wall Street Journal putting out another piece talking about Wells Fargo rolling out a tokenized deposit program that's not even available right now for corporate clients. So this looks very orchestrated to me. I know how dirty these guys are now because we've been covering this for a couple of years, and I'm surprised at how many dirty tricks they're playing. What are we going to expect from them going into September?
Well, what I think this is really setting the stage for, Paul, is like, either we can, in the digital asset world, and I'm in both worlds, right? I'm in both, but in the digital asset world, if we allow, in other words, if they make it seem like they are going to not vote for clarity at all unless the banking problem is fixed, we might get a Clarity Act, Paul. But is it going to be the Clarity Act that keeps America as the innovator? Or is it going to be a Clarity Act that puts a massive moat around our legacy banks and doesn't allow the United States to innovate? It really is offensive that we are innovating. I mean, literally SpaceX and NVIDIA, are looking at StarMine, data centers in space. We're able to be doing that, but we can't get, financial machinations passed in our own Congress that are protecting legacy technology. And in other words, what I'm trying to say is, if you start to see senators now kind of pulling back and saying, we aren't even going to vote for this, especially on the Republican side, unless this deals with the concerns we have for small town Kansas City banks. Yeah. I'm sorry, Senator, we can't change the time. We are in a period of moving to blockchain. It is happening globally. This is not a US-based thing where the US Congress can come in and say, no, we're going to protect the banks. This is a global sweep to a new way of transacting financial transactions. And thank God. I actually think that Wells Fargo, it's interesting that they are now talking about tokenization on the blockchain. It's kind of like not the same, but similar to the way, we've been talking about Japanese banks getting on board and saying, we'll be your infrastructure. We'll roll this out. We're going to be your go-to to make cryptocurrencies work. So I don't know if they're trying to give banks more time to see if they can come up with a way that they can get into the game. But if they are trying to scare us now that this might not even have 60 votes because the banks are so vocal, then, we could either get no act or we could get an act that we don't want. And how is that helpful for us? That's the exact opposite of what we need. So this is a huge problem.
All right. So there has been kind of a situation like this, Rebecca. If you look back at Netflix and their potential acquisition with Warner Brothers, this was kind of, because everybody was looking at that as, either it's going to go sideways, it's going to go down if it doesn't happen. But the moment that they were out of the bidding, it actually allowed that industry to kind of move along, and I'm just wondering if clarity does go off the table, is this okay, we now have certainty that that's not going to happen? And can we move along from there? Do you think we'd see some sideways, a crash? Where would you see the digital asset market going if it doesn't go through?
I mean, if we have status quo, we have to look at what is status quo. Like, we don't get new, clarity around regulation, around what is this, who is in charge. We already pretty much know it's not going to be, from the perspective of it being a commodity and not belonging under the SEC as a security. If we can agree that that's the framework we're all operating under right now, without, in the absence of clarity, then perhaps it's not the worst thing, because we can continue to innovate and yet know that the Congress can't get a bipartisan, consensus on how to regulate this. And so what does that leave? The only concern, of course, the biggest concern is that if that is not enough of clarity for the operations that are moving forward with implementing blockchain solutions and tokenization, all these, stablecoin issuers, all of these things, if they cannot, if they don't feel they have the regulatory framework security and it's clear enough that they feel comfortable to move forward to actually implement all of this, all the solutions and all the things they want to bring forward, then that would be the problem, right? They're too afraid that they are going to do something that's not clearly defined and basically be sued. And so then you could really stifle innovation from not having a regulatory framework that people feel comfortable operating in, and that would be the biggest problem.
Yeah, I mean, we are in a position now, and you mentioned the ethics situation. I want to play a clip for you because this is Trump talking about this. And it was a bit surprising to me. I was kind of taken back by how far along ethics was. Let me play this clip.
But I do it very simply because we can't let China have it or Japan have it. And in the bill, they want me to be different than everybody else in the.
So you're against that, it would sound like.
Well, I don't mind putting it in a blind trust. I don't run my stuff anyway. I let my kids run it. They're not involved in government. I don't talk to them about government. I don't talk to them about much other than to say, I love you kids. They're good kids. That takes a lot of pressure off our dollar. It's a good thing for our country.
All right, so Trump right there saying, I'm willing to do a blind trust. This has been another factor that the Democrats have kind of pushed for. First administration that's ever been exposed to this kind of restriction. And even though it's going to be a temporary restriction, even until he's out of office. So it's like they're only targeting this guy. I think Trump is looking at using clarity as leverage, saying, hey, you need to get this across, or otherwise it's going to look bad for you, Democrats. And, the other alternative is that it actually may be the economy that everybody's pressing on. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that your audience accepted, the average American is not following what clarity is, what it does, even what the digital, conversion to tokenization and crypto platforms, blockchain is even happening. So I don't think that the mainstream voter is clued in. It's not going to be, Paul, until these things actually start affecting how you're checking out and your ability to really start to leverage this as stable coins, and as these things become more of the mainstream way to pay, then I think it would have a much bigger impact. For those of us that are in the know, I think that this is a really big problem, that it's been over a year since the House passed it, and that the Senate hasn't been able to get it done. And in the absence of getting it done, if it creates innovation outside of us, that is an absolute problem that Trump should be harping on. And the incidence of getting it done before the midterms, but having it be too protective of the banks, I think that's a whole nother thing that you could really harp on I don't want that. I want that the least. I'd rather have nothing at all than an act that is going to try to put this massive moat around our banking industry. I believe if you have to legislate and oppose and instead of innovating, if you're legislating instead of innovating, you've already lost. You're already a dying industry, and it's time for you to get like Wells Fargo is doing and saying, what can we do on the blockchain? What can we do with tokenization? And so, yeah, this is a huge problem for America. Whether the average American voter has any clue about this at all, I have a feeling that they're too involved in social media to even understand what's going on.
Well, I think to your point is the innovation cycles sometimes are well ahead of what mainstream is.
Exactly.
And then they only realize it down the road and find out, oh, we're behind because we didn't, our lawmakers didn't make moves back 3 years ago, which is what we're talking about now.
And I just want to say, I am still so disgusted if we as a country pass a bill that only has an ethics provision that relates to the current sitting administration. I just can't even put into words how disgusting that is. Like, you really don't care about the ethics for anybody else except for this sitting president. And even if they want to say, well, he offered it to begin with, even if they want to say that, if you're serious about ethics, why wouldn't it apply to every administration?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't it apply to every member of Congress? Why does it apply to just a sitting president? It is disgusting.
All right. I want to go over to the potential rate hike and possibly maybe a rate pause. We'll see. How do you think this changes Warsh's position with just the jobs numbers? I know the inflation numbers haven't come in yet, but what about just this jobs numbers? Is he looking at this any differently now?
I think he's vindicated. I think the consternation that happened in the financial markets and all the financial media last week about his FOMC meeting and his lack of wanting to give guidance, his lack of wanting to really control the short end of the curve, even though we had 3 dissenters, I think that he was very clear that he wants to give less guidance, maybe even possibly have less meetings, and he thinks that the market itself will do a lot of the heavy lifting. It certainly did on the long end, from after the FOMC meeting. So you had a lot of people in the financial media. It was kind of weird. They're coming out and saying, gosh, there's a real strong case for hikes, and he's not doing it. And they were really questioning him already, like, give the guy a minute, give him a beat. And now that we see this weakness in the labor market, this is really making those people that were really kind of out there beating a drum saying, gosh, he really should have taken action. There was really enough data to support it. I think that he's vindicated. And this just lets us know that, a lot of this, we also got a May revision downward as well. So if you look at the June and May revisions together, it's over 100,000 jobs downward that we weren't expecting. And then also we did expect this to be a relatively positive, number at 80 to 85 was consensus. We had some outliers that said 115, but for the most part, we were at, an 80, 85 consensus. And to get a loss of 23 with a consensus that high, obviously the ADP numbers came in weak this week, but nobody was expecting this large of a loss. And this just obviously boosts Warsh's position to wait and see, to let the market do the finagling and the talking. And again, I think he's going to continue to have this stance until his task force really deliver the data that they're supposed to deliver to him by the end of the year. And I think after he has the data from the task force, we'll start to see a lot more opinions and changes being formulated. But I really think he's trying to give enough space for the market to breathe and for these numbers to come in. Let's see what the market is really doing. I think that was very smart, very strategic. And I'm glad that he's not getting ruffled by the financial media basically trying to tell him and push him to take action.
Well, I think the situation with the Fed is, one, he was put in a pretty hard position. The real question will be is if we do really see any kind of consensus on inflation numbers, because those will be the key components coming back here in just a little bit. So with not only jobs and inflation, you look at GDP and what that may look like throughout the end of the year, moon numbers potentially could be coming in. I don't know. If the economy is truly cooling, then maybe this is a position that Warsh is kind of queuing up for. I want to jump over to something that Bessent did. And everybody knows about the famous, buy Japanese yen note. So here is a quote. Here is a clip of Bessent talking about this issue and how it applies to the yen. Take a look.
Automatically, that should lead to more dollar strength over time.
Are we intervening in the currency market right now, strengthening the yen? Is that happening?
Absolutely not. We have a strong dollar policy.
Kobe EC put out the yen carry trade maybe is dying. In other words, the carry trade is losing its influence in the market. We have a different opinion on this, but do you think that Bessent is in fact trying to orchestrate some sort of market correlation to where the dollar and the yen are playing into this? Why do you think he's going this direction?
Well, there's no doubt. So, the yen was at its lowest in 40 years and the dollar was at its strongest in 40 years. You can't have, with all of the carry trade that has been executed, with how much a capital is in our markets through and from the carry trade, you cannot have that reverse. We cannot see a reverse carry trade. And so you have, Japan obviously buying its own yen, but you had a really interesting thing. It's just really coming out that what they did last Thursday, last Friday was obviously Bessent did sell, but he sold euros. And so he bought yen, not through selling dollars, because he was very clear that he wants a strong dollar policy. He does not want to weaken the dollar to support the yen. So what they did is circumvent that and go out and sell euros to actually buy yen. And the issue, of course, with the ECB is that they did not let the ECB know ahead of time. They told them, they alerted them after the fact. And that's kind of not been done. There's usually more Western coordination that you would normally reach out and talk about that first. That wasn't done. It was executed and then they were informed. And I think that says a lot.
You look at Japan's FSA, this is a whole new division that's set up to do basically orchestrate digital assets and stablecoins. It starts today. Yeah, the 7th.
Yes.
So here we go. Japan's Financial Services Agency will create a dedicated division to oversee digital assets and stablecoins, which are digital assets pegged to fiat currencies. So this is happening with one of their biggest banks, which is SBI. So you look at that happening right now, and it seems as though this almost sounds like they're putting the carry trade on chain to me. Mm-hmm. And this is a good point of this right here. Here's the, remember, this happened not too long ago. This was talking about truck drivers that would be able to receive stablecoins. And essentially it was Amazon Japan, which was among one of the clients that were rolling out these stablecoin payments. So this is real. This is the ultimate of what should be happening here in the United States.
That was exactly what I was just going to say. It's like, look at Japan. Their bank is, one of their largest banks is saying, hey, I'm SBI, I'm going to be your backbone. Then you have them creating an entire, government body around just this. And we can't even get our two sides to agree because we have to protect legacy industries and prevent a presidency from making money on blockchain. It's sad. It's sad. It's almost like I have to say it, Paul, it's like we're literally watching this transpire and us losing prominence globally in front of our eyes. We're watching it in front of our eyes. It's sad.
Yeah. Listen, we've had Sota Watanabe on the show before, and this guy is part of the organization that essentially helped set this up. And this was a tweet he put out in early August. And what he said, the big statement right here, in the coming months, we will make the on-chain yen carry trade possible. Then you look at some of the reporting that's been coming out of this. I want to go to a clip real quick that has Sota talking about this. And then I want to show you an inside report here. Take a look.
For example, a lot of the big bank in the US has JPY on their balance sheet. And we would like to use JPY stablecoin for on-chain asset management globally.
How much capital do you think is ready to deploy?
Our target at the end of the year is roughly a couple of 100 million. But in coming years, we would like to issue, billions, even, 10 billions or even more.
Billions, even more. All right, so that's a big deal, especially by end of year. That would be a very fast uptake in general. Wow. Japanese institutions care more about Ethereum versus Bitcoin.
Yes.
This was way before, guys, that Japan started initiating all these regulatory measures, way before. It was also before we started to see the architecture being revealed, even though Sota was telling us right there in that interview, it's going to happen. And here we are, July 31st, and sure enough, it has happened within that. You look at this right here, Rebecca. This is the uptake in crypto asset accounts in Japan.
Wow.
And this could literally go into the billions very quickly. To his point, how much of an impact and how would this work if the yen carry trade is actually transacted on chain? If there is a way that this starts to move into digital assets?
To see that you have, a massive industry, economy like Japan being this innovative, this fast.
Yeah. It's a little scary.
I almost, my brain is going to, is Japan trying to be the leader of the digital financial revolution of the world? I mean, what is happening here? And it would make sense for them to try to do that, Paul, because with a reverse carry trade, if they can get the carry trade on the blockchain and they can kind of obfuscate what the unwinding would be, in a traditional financial world, then they're buying their relevance into the future. And that is that means we're becoming also, I mean, the carry trade being a separate issue. Again, just all of the things that they're doing to continue to be able to be relevant, even in the face of rising yields, which is a problem for them.
Yeah. Yeah, rising yields problem for Japan. Obviously, we've seen this move, and it was surprising to us even when we reported on it about a month ago, how fast Japan was moving on these regulatory alignments. And then for their tax position already to be pretty much in frame. I mean, they went down from like a 50% taxation on crypto gains, capital gains, down to like a 20%. So the likelihood of tax orientation, along with innovation, along with regulation, now you've got the trifecta of everything happening right, which is usually what drives markets.
Exactly, which is why my brain is forming a hypothesis saying, is Japan really making a play here to be the innovator financially of the blockchain?
Well, SBI probably is going to have a big portion of that, and we know how that plays into a lot of other digital assets out there. You guys know what I'm talking about. So I have two more clips for you before I let you go. This one is Tom Lee. And Tom Lee is somewhat of a permabull, and he's got another statement here to happen in August, and I want to get your opinion if you think that's a possibility. Take a look.
The deleveraging that happened a couple of weeks ago put a lot of cash on the sidelines, got sentiment quite bearish, and then on top of people getting very skeptical of the Fed, got markets to de-risk. And now I think as earnings have been good, and I think there's a rethink of how inflation might be cooler than expected. And of course, AI is still strong. There's going to be a chase. I think that chase takes us towards 7,900, 8,000.
Most people who are putting out bullish notes cite both of the facts that you did. There was some froth that needed to be worked out. There was some leverage that got a little bit too high, and all of that needed to be worked out. And then the backbone of the whole thing, the earnings.
Yeah, so earnings has been somewhat inflationary. We've just continued to see that. I wouldn't say all of it, though, is of where we're trading right now, well upwards of over 7,000 now. And you look at the S&P 500 as it sets right now, 8,000? What do you think?
I mean, remember, I had told you before that I think we could easily be at 8,000 by the end of the year. I don't know that we'll get straight to 8,000 this month, although a lot of people are calling for it. But, it's just been, Paul, these earnings are just outrageous outside. You cannot discount S&P 500 doing 50% earnings growth in 1 year. You cannot contain that. Yeah. So it is inflationary. It's hyperbolic. It will push the markets higher. We had gotten into the fear territory again when all that froth was being worked through and all of that leverage was being worked through. And now we're back over to greed. We're back to the 5960 on the greed scale. So people are less afraid now of a pullback. I do think we have the August option expirations, August 21st. So that could be some consternation there because there's a big rollover. But I mean, I have absolutely believed that 8,000 is very possible. I don't ever like to say it's going to be, like this month or even next month, but at the clip rate, as long as we don't have a scare. And obviously one of the biggest reservations that I have is the AI, the moonshot, Kimi 3. What is that vulnerability to our CapEx? Because we are so driven right now on FY27 and even 28 CapEx projections. The hyperscalers are doing great. Mag 7 is discounted and doing better. So you've got a lot of things moving in the right direction. But again, if we do get some kind of additional, hey, we can do this faster, cheaper in China, then that will have an impact on CapEx, which will have a deteriorating impact down the chain because everything is a rising tide. The AI tide is rising all of these boats together. Yeah.
Hey, I want to show one last clip here. Okay. This is Sandy over at Franklin Templeton, Sandy Call, and she and I have been on the show many times around where Franklin Templeton is going. They're a pretty aggressive organization right now. They've just added some new digital asset people, but listen to what she had to say, and then I want to get your opinion on certain tokens. Take a look.
Right. If Franklin Templeton is recording our future investment transactions on a blockchain like Ethereum, you need to own ETH. Yeah. And so demand for the native cryptocurrencies by people who are actually operating businesses in the space I think is going to surge. And then as the cryptocurrencies surge, the treasuries of these foundations start to have more and more capital that they can deploy to developers to begin developing apps. And then the quality of those apps starts going up, which we're already seeing in the gaming industry.
Yeah.
I mean, it used to be I needed to own the equity of a company to capture growth. And now I really believe you need to own the tokens of a network to capture growth. That just the fact that everybody says by October the markets are going to turn, the markets will probably start to turn prior to October. Because that anticipation of that event, people are going to want to be positioned before that. To capture that growth opportunity, you need to own tokens.
All right, so she's talking her book. I get it. I'm fine with that. You know, this is Franklin Templeton. We love him, and you guys kind of understand the position. But if you do look at Ethereum, which is what she's referencing, this is a 22% move in a month. All right, not bad for if you're buying the bottom at Ethereum right there at around 1,500, trading right almost at 2,000 now, 1917 as we record today. With clarity, possibly getting some clarity one way or the other, the market starting to get a correction, an 8,000 S&P, Japan going full tilt into digital assets. I feel like this is coiling up for a bull run here, Rebecca. Am I wrong? Am I too early here?
I don't think you're wrong. The timing is always the thing, especially when we're in the middle of monetization and innovation, right? So I'm talking about monetization on the AI side, on the stock, on the equity side, and then we're innovating and implementing those innovations as we go. So I don't think you're wrong. The timing is the question.
Yeah.
And of course, anything that could derail it. I mean, again, I would rather have no clarity than a clarity that is too protective of legacy. It's just not what we need. To listen to her, it's like, this is moving, it's happening, and you need to be buying and you need to be positioned now. You know, it's too late to be talking about an October timeframe. We're talking about we need to be doing these things now.
You could go to the AI trade. You could go to the AI trade and look at that, and many people would say, well, you've already missed the AI trade. You needed to be positioned 18 months ago, which is what people will say in 12 months for digital assets, I believe.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, I don't think you're wrong. I've been a longtime believer of Ethereum specifically because of their smart contracts, the ability. I mean, that to me is really a future way of we're doing as a lawyer, you know, contracting. It's not going to be the traditional way of doing contracting. It's going to be a blockchain platform. It's going to be completely different. I'm a huge, big fan of Ethereum, and I do think that its implications long term are massive for commercialization.
Yeah, you look at the move that Robinhood has made with Robinhood Chain. That alone, I think, is going to make it or bring it mainstream. We're already seeing, you know, insane growth within that chain itself, and the possibilities are just beginning. And Vlad's pretty cagey. I think he's going to ask for forgiveness on a lot of his strategies, and which is what Robinhood is, you know, famous for.
That's what you have to do in this environment. You have to just do it and then ask for, you know, forgiveness after the fact, because you can't innovate in such an uncertain environment. You have to just do it yourself. You have to go for it and then deal with the consequences.
All right, you guys, if you want to reach Rebecca Walser, you can do that over at Walser Wealth Management. She, of course, is on the show quite a bit. We love to have her. She always has a great insight. So, Rebecca, thank you so much for coming in today. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Paul. It's great to have you. And let's pray for a big bull run and and some actual clarity around clarity. We need it.
If you like this video, hit like and subscribe, drop a comment down below, and also join our free private member group. The link is in the description.